You don't understand Americans' power to protest.
Protest?
Look, people have it so good in America that they get bored very easily. And when people get bored, they start protesting things.
Oh boy, oh joy of joys. This is my second time recording this because I did it when I was in Befshida for RisuCon and the audio sounded terrible. But I like money because who doesn't? I guess I need all the monies I can get because who doesn't like monies? So I shall do Brian, of course. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about Family Guy, or more specifically, Brian Griffin. Oh boy! Sorry, I just thought I was waiting forever to say that, and I had to say it really low in RisuCon, so there we go. Now, Family Guy is a traditionally animated cartoon, meaning it takes 9 months to make an episode. Like a baby. Despite this, the writers sometimes forget this fact, and they try to be like South Park, where they'll satirize current issues, as in full-on episodes, not like quick jokes, and because of the time frame and how long it takes to make an episode, the episodes they produce will often come off as outdated by the time they're out. Seriously, like, why do shows keep doing this? What works in South Park's favor is that it's made to be current. An episode is made 6 days in advance. They can basically make edits until the minute it airs on TV. Like, sometimes the episode is not totally done the day of. Like Margaritaville, the script for that episode wasn't finished until the morning of. Meanwhile, American Dad was made to make fun of the Bush administration, but when the writers made a Harriet Mears joke in season 1, when the episode aired, they actually forgot who she was and had to Google. Seriously, what was that joke? I still can't find it. Can one of you guys tell me what it was? The issue Family Guy satirizes here is the Justine Sacco case. Kitty, can you ELI 5? Okay. In 2013, Justine Sacco, a PR rep, went on a flight with her family from London to Cape Town, South Africa, on vacation because she had family living there, and to put it out there, she was from South Africa. But before takeoff, Justine posted on her Twitter account, which had 174 followers, going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Yes, it sounds racist, but with these situations, I like context. Apparently, in Justine's defense, she said it sarcastically in order to mock white privilege. Plus, like I said above, she was South African. Even though it doesn't resolve her, I think that's part of why she made the joke. And since her follower base on Twitter was really not that big, probably like friends and family and co-workers, she probably figured everybody would know it was a joke. Of course, she said it on Twitter, where context goes out the window. During the flight, when she just slept and had no internet, the tweet was picked up by over 100,000 people, and the hashtag "Has Justine landed yet?" started trending, because people assumed Justine was a racist, and since none of them knew her personally, again, they just started inventing a backstory of her being this racist white lady. And when she woke up, there was a mob at the gate. In the aftermath, Justine lost her job, her and her relatives got harassed, and she couldn't find new work for a year. Family Guy likely heard about this because somebody did write about it in a book and it made an episode on it, which aired in 2017, which even in production order, this episode was made in 2016 at the earliest. Now, I'm not opposed to Family Guy talking about such events, kinda. I mean, maybe looking back, we can realize things we didn't. Like if South Park satirized Justine, they could say that yes, Twitter overreacted, but at the same time, maybe you should think twice about what you post, because Justine still worked for a job based on image. Maybe she could have privated the tweet to only her few followers so that way it wouldn't spread. But honestly, who really expects a tweet like that to blow up? But as you might have guessed, Family Guy's portrayal of the Justine Sacco case, it doesn't work. One, they picked the wrong person to go through the journey, as it's Brian getting cancelled. Like, what is with Family Guy doing that? Really, it should have been anybody else. Joe, Quagmire, Cleveland, Meg, Chris, Lois. Second, they tried to make a storyline out of this. Emphasis on tries, because they really couldn't commit to it. But that's not to say this concept couldn't have worked. I hate to say this, maybe don't do Brian becoming Justine. Have him become one of her haters. Perhaps Brian could take the place of, say, Sam Biddle, who was the journalist that spearheaded the campaign against her and did for about a year whenever she tried to improve and apologize until he got context. Brian could harass a random person who he thinks is a racist to look good, doxing them and everything, until he realizes he misinterpreted something, because sadly that would be in character. Or that even if it makes him look good, the person behind the screen is still a person. But no. Brian becomes Justine, and that means he spends 3 episodes living away from the Griffins. Basically, what I thought moving out Brian's song should have been. But we'll get there when we get there, because this intro is long enough as is. So, let's discuss. Still, I need to say, can I do the damn video? God. One day, Brian is taking Stewie to the library for story time. Or rather, Brian is supposed to. Instead, he suggests they should go to the Quahog University. Wait, Quahog has a college? Huh, that's kind of surprising. But then again, they also have an airport, so what do I know?
I'm just saying, we should go to the library at Quahog University and take your education to a higher level. I guess I can try it. I mean, I do want to get ahead.
But honestly, I don't think it's such a bad idea. Stewie's a pretty intellectual child, and while he does like such childish pursuits as story time, well, he probably wouldn't mind hearing a lecture on this or that, because nobody would talk down to him, and he'd actually understand and listen. Unlike me when I was a college kid, and I mostly just wrote Beetlejuice fanfics. Nothing bad, just stupid stuff like Beetlejuice goes to McDonald's, or Beetlejuice adopts a pet, or something like that. Brian, what a great idea!
Oh, yeah. That's good library.
Oh, you didn't come here for me. You came to be a creep.
Damn it, Brian, the one time I trusted you. Go eat some chocolate, you frickin' creep. Wait, no, actually, that'll kill him. Then go eat ice cream. I know dogs are lactose intolerant, and because of that, don't even go eat that cool stuff Shake Shack sells.
So, who you reading?
George Eliot.
Ah, Georgie. I think she said Bantam Press, 1851.
George Eliot is a woman, you idiot. Did you not watch my video on Wheels and the Leg Man? Women often go by male-driven pseudonyms because the writing world back then was especially male-dominated. And for those of you who don't know, George Eliot was controversial even back then. Like, she was the most scandalous author. She went by George Eliot even after she was outed because George was the name of her deceased common-law lover, George Henry Lewis, and the pair had a massive scandal because they lived together while they were unmarried, because at the time, women only lived with their male relatives and their husbands. Anything else? Ugh. Pearls clutching. And for Eliot, she found it to be a good, mouth-filling, easily pronounced word. Some intellectual you are. Pretty much the only thing this whole scene establishes is Brian is a creep who will do whatever if it means picking up women, and also to seem hip and trendy.
Lumineers?
What? You just said Lumineers with no context.
Did I do that?
Ugh.
Therefore, he uses terms he doesn't understand, and which, honestly, I hate when people do this. And he can never admit when he's wrong until it's too late, if at all. All of these things will be important later, but unfortunately, I need to hit my daily quota of Brian bashing, or I cannot eat my Cracker Barrel muffin.
Tumblr?
Nobody uses Tumblr anymore, I don't think. At least Brian didn't want to go on DeviantArt. But another thing this scene does is establish the idea of people who protest for the wrong reasons. Because Brian and Stewie stumble upon some student protesters who would make PC Principal blush.
And last week, a professor told his class to have a nice day, which is microaggression, because in our systemic rape culture, no day is a nice day. So we want him fired too.
Which maybe it's because I was a college kid, and I will be in a few days or weeks, depending on when this video comes out, and when I re-recorded it, I actually found out on that day I have a sub-license. But I never got this stereotype. Is it because people think college kids have infinite free time? Because after commuting, chores, and schoolwork, and not to mention for many of us, real, actual work, we basically have like no free time. Outside of a massive strike that happened my last semester, which wasn't the students, it was the adjuncts. The students just supported, so the school was like a ghost town. I never saw any actual protests like that. Like, oh, we don't like the new food, so we're gonna protest, or, oh, we don't like this person, so we're gonna protest. Which maybe it was because Rutgers Newark is a sister school, so we're a lot smaller, but even then, like, I didn't see any of that stuff. I mean, around Halloween time, there would always be a group of conservative Christians who would come out and protest, especially at the frats because they had Halloween parties, but it was more so to rile us up. And when one of them found out he wasn't getting anywhere, the campus police escorted him away. Wait, do Take Back the Night rallies count? Still, because this is Family Guy, they don't protest some actual problem. They pretty much protest for the sake of it.
Hey, what's going on?
Someone wrote weird on the transgender bathroom and the school president didn't overreact, so we want him fired.
Seems reasonable.
Exactly!
Now, again, this could have been an episode onto itself, like Brian trying to get with a female protester, kind of like he did in Teeks for 2, or he does it because he thinks it'll make him look nice. Or maybe he really does believe in the cause. Or maybe, considering what happens later on, use it to make the point that Brian isn't what the mob makes him out to be. Just saying, it's gonna be kinda hard to argue that Brian is a good person who doesn't deserve what happened to him, when in his establishing scene, he's acting like a perv. Just saying, some college kids are 17, Brian. You don't want to end up with Chris Hansen. Granted, this does get him interested in Twitter.
Type in tweet, blast off in 3, 2, 1, and tweeted. I am back in the game, see?
And all this does is remind me about why I don't post on Facebook anymore unless it's like I'm on vacation or something, or had a milestone in my life. Still, in a way, I didn't realize this until I wrote the script. This episode seems a tad dated. Obviously, using any real social media app is gonna be dated in some way, shape, or form because one, the app could vanish, or we could just go off of what we thought about it at the time, and considering how Twitter is now X, and I refuse to call it that, and there's a focus on it being more conservative, hence stuff like Threads, well, it seems like if this episode aired now, Brian would hate Twitter, or says he hates it and he uses a burner account, and the app of choice they'd use would be like Instagram, or some kind of hybrid between Twitter and Instagram. Still, Brian keeps tweeting his thoughts out, and all it does is make me roll my eyes, because I feel like I've done stuff like this before.
Why are you getting into Twitter now? Unless you're an athlete or a celebrity, no one cares.
Clearly you're not in the Helliverse fandom, but because he's been tweeting non-stop, well, you know where this is going. Brian goes to the Quahog Theater to see Baitwatch, but before he does, he puts a tweet out, a racist tweet, which reads, about to see the new Kevin Hart movie. Just kidding, I'm white and went to college. Yeah, you guys are satirizing wrong. Brian probably should have seen Ride Along Free, not Baywatch. I don't know, like you could make the point like he's just being stupid. Again, Justine was doing that as a joke to show white privilege. Brian could be doing the same. The tweet trends and Brian is a pariah.
Are you at Dog Backwards from Twitter?
I am. Are you a fan?
You racist jerk! I hope you get foot and mouth disease!
What the hell was that?
She hates you because you lied, Brian. Unlike Plankton, you did not go to college. Well, I mean, you were inside a college earlier, but you never finished. Oh, another thing you didn't finish. I'm sorry. Now, let's deal with the elephant in the room. The main reason I don't think they should have picked Brian is the fact that the episode deals with him being accused of being a racist. And I hate to say it, I don't think I'm being radical here when I want to point out Brian is a racist. And not like Peter where he's just ignorant and if he's taught he'll know better, he's a legitimate racist. Like, yes, I know that song from Avenue Q and that Robert Lopez wrote it because he had a racist Filipino grandma, but one of Brian's earliest traits was that he was a racist. Like in Don't Make Me Over, where he would bark at Dr. Diddy and then make long, drawn-out excuses.
Sorry. Oh my God, that is not me. That's not who I am. I vote Democrat. It will not happen again. We cool? We good?
Heck, he didn't even care about race in the sense of, like, it being an issue he should support. He only cared about renaming James Woods High after Dr. King because he wanted to impress his girlfriend, who was black.
Like, just, off the top of my head, I don't know, Sidney Poitier, Reggie Jackson, Martin Luther King. Those are just 3 names that come to mind.
Again, not to honor the man, and as Peter points out, he basically picked the most, I'm gonna put this the best way possible, quote-unquote generic guy possible.
At least I wasn't trying to change the name of the school to impress my girlfriend. Now, that is not true. Oh, yeah? Well, then why'd you pick Martin Luther King, eh? Why not Ronald Reagan?
That'd be like saying you want to support Asians and then you rename the school after Jackie Chan. Well, actually, I mean Jackie Chan. You know what I mean. And honestly, I still think it should have been Sissy Loretta Jones. She was from Rhode Island, she has a cool name, she was a celebrity, everybody wins. Besides, that tweet is really not much different from what Brian would say in real life, which maybe that's why they picked him, but, like, if he saw a girl after the movie, he probably would have said that, and thought he was clever when she would probably just, like, walk away.
Wow, haven't seen that much camel toe since the Arab Spring. #thinking in tweets. No.
Justine, it was misconstrued as such, so her life was ruined over a misunderstanding. But Brian, there really is no misunderstanding. Really, if they wanted to have a real conversation about what happened, perhaps make the point that because Brian is tech illiterate, he has no clue how to make the point he's joking, like make it known. Like, perhaps he could write LOL after, or add an emoji since texting is weird, or just write JK instead of like, just kidding! Because with texting, it's very easy for this to sound like this, you stupid blah. Like, even I find myself doing it because I over-explain in real life. Imagine texting. So they could say that, well, people shouldn't be canceled over stupid jokes because, hey, maybe they didn't know it was offensive. Well, it's also a two-way street, so we should think about it before we post. But I guess Brian did get his wish, as people are finally following him on Twitter, just like he wanted. Hey, there is no such thing as bad publicity, totally. Brian leaves the movie theater to see that a crowd has gathered. Wow, you really are stupid. Don't run home, you frickin' idiot. They're gonna know where you live and where to go harass you. Who are you? Marcel the Shell with shoes on? Even he was cuter and had more charm.
All right, I'll delete the tweet. You haven't deleted it yet? What a train wreck! There, done. See? It's done.
Brian, much like hell, the internet is forever, and people can now take screenshots. Deleting a tweet is like slapping a band-aid on a broken bone, especially at this point. What you should do is what got you in trouble in the first place. Go online and apologize, and just say it was a bad take and you didn't actually mean what you said. Or just say why you did it. Then wait 2 weeks for this to blow over, and if the harassment still happens, or hey, if it gets worse, lawyer up. Oh wait, it's too early for that. Unfortunately, Brian is not the only one to feel the brunt of his actions for once. The Griffins get made fun of and harassed for being associated with him, because how dare Brian live in their house? Although, according to King of the Hill, if you're racist, so is your dog, so maybe the people of Quahog subscribe to that theory. For example, Lois gets harassed at the grocery store as nobody wants to talk to her.
You can't freeze me out like this. We're on a first-name basis.
They're on our name tags, Lois.
But I don't even have to log.
Maybe they heard about what happened at the coffee house. Just saying, a lot of my viewers have said Lois would be the worst customer in real life, outside of what she did with the peanuts, because she would be that annoying lady who doesn't shut up. At one point, Chris and Meg beat up a crowd who tried to attack them in retribution.
It was just a joke. There's no such thing as jokes anymore.
Yeah, we live in a post-joke world.
We're eating here.
I'd like to see you try.
Which, honestly, I'm kind of surprised about. Normally, with these types of situations, yes, negative consequences happen. Like, Justine lost her job, but one can argue she was a PR rep, so she worked at a job based on publicity and image. However, another reason cancel mobs happen is because on the internet, you're hidden behind a username, so you're basically anonymous. And you know how they say you can figure out what kind of a person somebody is by how they treat waitstaff? Yeah, try the internet, because they can't even see your face or track you down. Still, the mob won't go away, and Lois says there's one thing Brian can do. Go outside and apologize.
What do you want me to do? I deleted my Twitter account, my Instagram, Facebook, everything. People still won't leave me alone.
You have to apologize. Go outside, do it now.
What? No! Brian needs to do this online, where most of the abuse happens and the message has the greatest chance of bailing him out quicker. Obviously, not everybody's going to listen, but more people will read it and retweet it. Or he could set up a press conference, where he does the tweet and then he expresses his thoughts. But Brian does go outside, and we get a stupid speech, which honestly feels weird, and I hate how often Twitter reposts this, as in, it's the wrong kind of person giving the speech, and it just makes the message seem odd, especially with how stereotyped everybody is. Like, that's the best word for this all. It seems weird. Obviously, let me just say that despite all my jokes, which I normally just do to make you guys laugh, well, I don't like Brian. I don't think he or his family deserved what happened to them. You don't deserve to get harassed because of a tweet. But I don't approve of the speech or how it's done. Just saying, it's like Quagmire protesting against Valentino from Hazbin Hotel. Brian tries to give the speech, but he's constantly interrupted by how the writers probably think millennials and Zoomers act.
Okay, sorry. Humans in the audience.
I identify as a basketball.
Humans and basketballs.
I'm a parrot who mimics words but doesn't comprehend them.
Brian, just ignore them and move on. Or better yet, why don't you ask them how they think you should apologize? You are the one giving them the apology. Ask them what you want, and it shows them you're willing to improve. Brian eventually loses his patience and he tells them off.
I'm not a racist, all right?
Yes, you are.
I just told a bad joke.
Yes, a joke that was purposefully racist when you yourself have a history of racism, Brian, and basically talk down to anybody to feel superior. Like, this was a plot point multiple times. Look, I don't like Ride Along. I was forced to watch it when I went to Borgata a couple of times, but I wouldn't write that tweet.
But nobody on the internet ever takes the time to ask themselves, is this worth freaking out over? Or are there bigger problems in the world than this tweet? Well, I assure you there are.
Again, that is true. But the way you phrase it, it's less like you're getting harassed in public and more like they suspended your Twitter account because they don't agree with your politics. Again, obviously, I don't think Brian deserved what happened to him because it's just a stupid joke and some people need to think, and there's better things to get angry about. And there's other people on the platform who really don't deserve to have a platform, but if this is how you're going to try to convey it, then just have the consequences be online. Again, the main reason mobs happen is because you're guaranteed autonomy. You're basically guaranteed to not be seen. And when you know you can do the wrong thing and get away with it, well, most people are gonna take that chance. Or they could have done where Brian gets popular on Twitter, or the tweet blows up, but somebody uncovers something stupid he did 10 years ago that is racist. But maybe it's something that everybody did back then. Or he doesn't agree with it now or remember. You know, like how Uncle Al did with squids are lazy and smell. Which honestly, even if it was an online short, did this plot line like 10 trillion times better. And it was actually funny. In BTW, he picked Mr. Krabs as the one to get cancelled. Like, look at that! They even made him sympathetic. Or heck, Glove and Boots had Mario get cancelled because trolls made it seem like he hated Jewish people. And that Fafa was xenophobic. Hate to be the one to tell you this, Brian, but you're gonna have to drink the juice and the Chinese bubble tea drinks. But all of this could go back to Brian being text illiterate, or maybe he doesn't realize the mob hates him because what he wrote was racist. The opportunity was right there, and they could explain it to him and he could apologize for it. But it does suck that both of those guys can't make videos anymore.
Just for the record, I love black people. I watch tons of black...
You know, you could still appreciate the race or culture or whatever and still be racist, right? Like, that does not absolve you. Or you can still have friends and be that way.
Huh? You want to ruin my life? Then congratulations, you did it!
Well, to ruin a life, you need to have a life to ruin to begin with. And how can you kill that, which has no life?
No one will hire me?
That was a problem before.
See, Stewie gets it.
I'm the self-righteous liberal, not you! I've kissed a transfor! How many of you can say that? Where's my medal?
And then you grew up immediately afterwards and compared her to somebody who can't live in a school zone or vote, and you call yourself far left. Again, this is why Brian should have taken the place of Justine's troll. He could think he's this liberal savior, when really he's not as perfect as he's made out to be. Just saying, remember how he used to work for Rush Limbaugh of all people? And Rush thought that people needed to come around on their own to be conservative, and he respected that they had different beliefs? Well, Brian thought he was a traitor for that. Obviously, this new speech upsets the crowd, and because the Griffin family doesn't know what else to do to protect themselves and the world from devastation, they do the impossible. Make Brian move out. Wait, what?
Not the person those people out there say I am.
I know that, but you also haven't done much to prove that you aren't.
Thank God you have my back.
We think you should move out.
Maybe there is a god. Well, I mean, of course there is one in Family Guy. There was that new episode. Wait, did Lydia talk about it yet? I haven't watched many video essays lately. I've been kind of busy. Obviously, Brian has issues with this, as they're basically dumping him on the street the same way you dump a baby in a dumpster. I guess he can at least live off the proceeds of faster than the speed of love.
What about all the stupid things Peter's done? He's never been kicked out in his life.
My life is not the issue here.
Peter, calm down.
Well, to be fair, Peter is the main character. His antics are usually more comical, therefore there's no hate behind them, and he at least has the excuse of disability, even if it was a big point in that episode that he was at least cognitive enough to realize his mistakes. But the Griffins don't care about nuance. And to add insult to injury, Stewie takes his collar away. So now Brian has to run around in the nude.
Brian, wait!
This collar is ours. It has our address on it.
Peace, dude.
Which leads to the next two episodes, where Brian is now on his own like Eponine, and a public pariah. Except, look, I hate to say it, he really isn't. Like, yeah, he obviously can't afford a good apartment, but after he moves out, it's like nobody recognizes him. He never gets harassed in public, despite the fact he spent the whole episode getting harassed. He has no consequences, nothing. It's like, without watching the first half of the episode, he just moved out for the sake of it. Honestly, part of me feels like they just wanted an episode where Brian moves out, but they just made fun of Justine so they would have an excuse. Like, there's one point where he goes to the store to buy some stuff for the apartment, and that's it. He's allowed to buy stuff, nobody bothers him, and yet he's supposed to be public enemy number one. I mean, one of the workers does see him, but presumably he strangely doesn't recognize him.
Hey, did you knock over a few bottles in aisle 7?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's because the store is full of older people who, at the time, weren't known for Twitter, but it's too jarring how the Griffins absolutely positively needed Brian to leave so they don't get harassed, and yet he's on his own and he's not getting harassed, and neither are they. It's not even a joke like the Griffins gave up too quickly because the mob moved on to somebody else, which unfortunately could have been a good way to return to status quo because, unfortunately, that does happen. You get harassed and then the hate dies down and they move on to another target, because it makes them feel good about themselves. And going forward with these episodes, again, if you watch without context, it doesn't feel like Brian did anything wrong. Sure, he has to get a job at a, let's say, strawberry farm, but his co-workers do not recognize him and they don't care who he is. Not even a, hey, you look familiar, were you on the news or something? And all of the crap he pulls here, like trying to date his co-worker, possibly getting accused of doing something gross, observing his neighbors, yeah, he would do that stuff if he still lived with the Griffins. Like, really, if you removed the apartment angle, it feels like it would be a normal episode. When really, these episodes could have had the backdrop or the conflict of Brian wants to prove he should be allowed to move back in, or that he's not racist or he learned a lesson. Like in PD4, he could get his job not because it's the only place willing to hire him because they can't see his face, only his voice, but to show how much he cares about people or that he can survive. Heck, this episode could have further gotten Brian cancelled, as it were. At Brian's new job, he meets a fellow rep named Martha.
Now you're talking my language.
Writer.
So watch out, you might end up in one of my scripts. Martha, gorgeous, headstrong, legs as long as spaghetti noodles, enters.
Brian, stop it. That's what got you into trouble in the first place. You think with the wrong head. Still, Brian persists and tries to ask out Martha, but she declines.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe we could Netflix and grill.
I think it's Netflix and chill.
Oh, good, because I don't have a grill.
Brian won't let that stop him, and he does something that, well, let's say he looks up photos of Martha and her mother at her grandfather's funeral, and he does a thing that will haunt our nightmares.
Oh my god! Gross! You scumbag!
Ew. But again, this could have tied into Brian being a pariah. See, Brian realizes he's gonna get fired, if not arrested, for what he did, so his landlord instructs him to get Martha fired first by planting drugs in her desk, because clearly they won't drug test her or anything like that, and they'll obviously not believe her. But this comes just as Martha is about to ask him out.
You did this, didn't you? I knew you were a little twerp as soon as I met you. He did this! He planted that!
Martha, I'm so sorry.
With Brian being hated on the internet and in real life, this could have been another nail in the coffin. Perhaps Martha finds out who he is, so she goes on the news and tells them that Brian got her fired and he did all sorts of illegal stuff in their cubicle. And that just restarts the cycle because instead of getting mad he's a racist, they get mad he's like a, I don't know what word he would use, you know what I mean. Or the Griffins were just about to let him move back home, and now they're getting dead mice in their mailbox again. And on the Griffin side of things, none of their episodes have anything to do with Brian or not having Brian or missing them. None of them regret making him move out, none of them miss him, and none of them talk about it. Although, I do like the Peter plotline this episode, and I am going to talk about it here because, I hate to say it, this is like the one thing Family Guy has over South Park. Look, I said what I said. Look, don't get me wrong. I think Back to the Cold War was an okay episode, and I like the point they made about nostalgia, where we tend to remember the past, but we only remember what we liked about it. And for some people, that could be hating on other people, just because it was familiar to them.
But honey, those times weren't better. We were all scared. People died. That's not something to strive to get back to.
But they did nothing with Putin himself, when that was the whole point people liked about episodes like Osama bin Laden has 40 pants.
You don't go around making things up about people either, unless it's about Mark Zuckerberg, because he deserves it.
You literally had an episode where Stephen Chris tracks Butters all the way to Russia because he spread misinformation on Facebook. And as punishment, he and Putin get grounded.
I hope you're both very satisfied with the damage you've caused, because you're both grounded!
And yet for Back to the Cold War, all he does is dance. With Family Guy, he gets his own episode. And honestly, it's way better than Trump Guy. Like, I might write a Trump Guy video one day because that was one of the first scripts I wrote. Peter is with the guys watching Rocky IV because tradition. Screw Brian. Even though that would have tied into the overarching plot. But Peter has to buy a copy, and unfortunately, it's a Russian bootleg, where it's edited to make it seem like Rocky's opponent, a Soviet, beat him.
Not only does he not get up, he's holding a sign that says "Workers of the World Unite."
Well, that seems like a logical idea, but this aggression will not stand.
In retribution, Peter writes an angry letter to the Russians.
All is well on this end. Chris continues to hit the books as best he can, and his grades have shown some improvement.
I can feel the anger coming off of him. Somehow, Putin found out about the letter and comes to the Griffins. Again, not because he read Brian's tweet and he's the only person in the world to find it funny or sympathize with him, but for a fight.
Unless he American chicken.
Did you just call me chicken?
Yes, chicken. Fikray. Sound different in Russia.
He and Peter tussle, but Putin has the advantage of bodyguards and he pounds Peter in like a Dutch baby. A Dutch baby's a food, like a mix between an overgrown pancake and a crepe. They're really good. But I gotta say, even without the guards, I think he would lose anyways. Peter is only good with fights when it concerns giant chickens. Still, he and Putin end up befriending each other, and Putin invites him back to Russia, where Peter discovers Russia sucks as everything is controlled by the government.
You got Simpsons?
We have Family Guy.
I did it to myself.
Oh, but that's not all. Worst of all, they fix American football.
Meet my best friend Roger Goodell.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell? You're a Russian spy?
I don't know, Peter. Why don't you tell me?
Wait, but don't they also fix WWE? Sorry if it comes off as myopic, I know nothing about sports. This causes Peter to resent Putin and challenge him to another fight. Thankfully, this one is a little more fair because it's in an official boxing ring and there are no bodyguards. Still, Putin gains the upper hand, and in typical Rocky fashion, Peter is about to lose until his girl shows up to help and offer some encouragement. Wait, Lois, how'd you get to Russia?
I'm not really here, Peter. You've been hit several times in the head and sustained severe brain trauma.
She's right. This has gone too far.
Okay. But what does this have to do with Brian or Twitter or both? It just feels so out of place. Like, this should have been its own episode on its own. Like, even this. Like, maybe the Griffins get reviled too because they're talking to the president of Russia. And this makes them realize, like, oh, it does suck to be harassed. Maybe we shouldn't have gotten rid of Brian. Because even we can solve our problems on social media. But no, nothing ties back. Nothing gets referenced. Next episode, Crimes and Makes Demeter. Meg starts drinking on Peter's instruction, not because she misses Brian or she's upset or she's getting bullied because of Brian, rather just to help her. But we do get a sweet story with her and Peter, which again should have been its own episode like they did with Meg Stinks. Really, this one is the worst. It feels like a normal episode with a Brian plotline stapled on top, like a little sticky note. But finally, Brian is allowed to move back home when he discovers via that Alfred Hitchcock movie reference that he has exposed Principal Shepard for stealing a ton of food.
Listen, Brian, we want you to come home again.
Oh, so the Twitter pariah is finally welcome home?
No, but the school board hero dog is.
now you reference it when the status quo is back in effect. At least they made a change and committed to it, I guess. Even if there was more they could have done to make this change stick. Just saying, they previously did a 3-parter when Brian died, and each episode was about the Griffins dealing with his death. Except for arguably in Harmony's way, that much I will admit, but Christmas Guy, yeah, that was 100% about bringing him back. I feel like they learned their lesson going forward, since when Family Guy does plot-centric episodes, they're only 2-parters. They'll have fallout, deal with the fallout, and that's it. And I can live with that. This, yeah, it should have been a 2-parter. 1 episode on Brian getting cancelled, and then Crimes and Meg's demeanor, and he comes home. What's weird is, I feel like the episodes where Brian moves out should always be 2-parters. I don't know why. Fun fact, the D in Apartment 23 was not the first time Brian moved out. All the way back in Moving Out Brian's song, he moved in with Jillian to prove to Peter and Lois he could, and he clearly did not care about Jillian in a way that wasn't casual.
Don't you understand? I don't want a committed relationship with Jillian.
Well, it sounds like she does. And if you're never gonna get serious, then you're not being fair to her.
But he couldn't afford it, so Stewie moved in to help with the rent. When this got revealed, Brian also kind of spilled it to Jillian that he didn't want to move in with her, and Jillian finally took the hint and dumped him.
Oh my God! I've never felt so stupid!
Really?
Well, I don't want to be your guilty burden, Brian. We're through!
This caused Brian to enter a depression until Stewie gave him a pep talk about standing up for what he wants. He went to go win back Jillian, but Mayor West got to her first.
Jillian, do you get the oxygen network?
I guess this is goodbye.
Please don't send me away.
I have to. You broke my heart.
Wow, I don't think it gets stated enough that Mayor West likes younger women. I'm guessing because of how immature he is, but if this were real life, yeah, that would be kind of worrisome. Jillian was a recurring character for a long time, and because this would be her swan song, outside of the Conrad episode, a 2-parter would be a good way to say goodbye. Part 1 could end with Stewie moving in, or say a cliffhanger of Stewie telling Jillian about Brian not wanting to move in, and then they go from there. As it stands, what we're left with the D in Apartment 23 is a pretty episode about cancel culture, which, if you want to beat a dead horse, you should have done Lindsay Ellis. She did not deserve what happened to her, and she only really just came back to YouTube. But as for this episode, yep, is my main takeaway and should be yours too. Go watch Uncle Al and Glove and Boots if you want a cancellation story done right. Anyhow, bye!